average score of 90. That makes it a finalist. Straight away, our first image. Boom. Now, because we're on 90, we can challenge this because we have 3 of you in that 90 range.
I find this beyond the Astro category an astonishing piece of visual communication. I see like a DNA helix of the binding forces of humanity and the universe kind of just represented in a magnificent form. You know, listening to the description, how that timing wasn't necessarily even planned in terms of that wonderful crossover and that swirling kind of matrix that runs through. And there's this lovely solid base to the bottom, and the detail is all there, and the shadow detail's handled beautifully, and there's that sense of poise and groundedness, and yet we're just being led out to fly to infinity and beyond through this wonderful vertical spaciousness that gives us all this room. You know, all the technical things are handled wonderfully. And to reinforce that base, there's a cooler palette down the bottom, but I also find that spatially moves us in a different direction because the cooler tones tend to pull you back and the warmer comes forward. So there's almost like this extra twist on this this plane, sort of visually, sort of straight on. It's a magnificent piece of visual communication. I love it.
Thanks, Paul. Now, Peter and Ari aren't quite there with you. Ari, could I get you to speak on this one, please?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so this is an amazing image. It's very, it's not that easy to capture, to come across Stevie. I call it like this unique phenomenon. The only thing that let me down just a tiny bit, it's just a little bit of a noise on the blue part of the image, which is a bit distracting. The noise on the blue part of the image, on the clouds. It's very subtle, but yeah, probably the photographer can probably fix up with just a tiny bit of local noise reduction. Right. It was a bit, yeah, that's all.
Thanks, Harry. Could you pass the microphone over to Dr. Tanya? Do you prefer Tanya or Dr. Tanya?
Tanya is fine, thank you.
Tanya, you're up there supporting Paul with his score. What are your thoughts?
So certainly, I feel like the positioning of that, a lot of luck is involved, but I think that also shows that for someone to be able to capture it and be ready to get it like that and to create such a beautiful image means that, yes, it's luck, but there is that undercurrent of obviously completely, being able to know what they're doing and to grab that opportunity. And that's what I find really captivating about it. And also from a scientific point of view, these Steves are something relatively new, and this phenomenon that we don't know much about it, and to be able to visually see it as that gorgeous double helix and to be fortunate enough to picture it like that, I just find it quite captivating.
Thanks, team. You want to say? No, you good? Okay. I'm going to ask you to all rescore that print, please. So you may all change your scores as much as you see fit. I'm not trying to influence the score. I'm just asking you to listen to the debate and give us your thoughts in keypad format. We now have 91 solid finalists.
Okay, description for this image. This image was captured in late autumn when the Milky Way appears to rise behind this iconic and culturally significant Ayers Rock. All stacked images were taken in one imaging session without moving the tripod. A media permit has been acquired to submit this image for this competition. Date, May 17, 2023. Ayers Rock, Northern Territory was the location. Voigtlander 35mm f2.0 was the aperture and focal length, and the camera was a Sony A7C, and the exposure was 2 hours.
There you go. In this case, this print has scored 85. Currently, that is a semi-finalist. However, you're at 91, Diego? Yes. Great, you get to challenge this. Please, talk to the print image.
Brings me emotions. That rock being the heart of the country, and seeing the Milky Way popping out of it, being the center of the galaxy, I think it was an outstanding job by the photographer. In this case, this punctuation relates a bit of what I feel when I see it and the technical difficulties on what I see on the screen, which is a great quality on the Milky Way being portrayed that way. The colors surrounding and the processing of the image. That's why those points.
Excellent. Thank you, Diego. Peter, you're at the other end of the scoring range. You're just out of that at 79.
Yeah, I guess it depends on our background and where we're coming to the image from. I agree that it's a great location, it's a great subject. I find it hard to divorce myself from all the other images I've seen taken of this place. So I have a background that's informing me. And as I look at the image, the composition, everything's great, but I find that the colour and the tonality is perhaps a little bit muddy. With just a little bit of post-production, that image could really lift a lot more. So from a pictorial point of view, I find the image is perhaps a little bit dull and not as bright and vibrant as I'm expecting it to be. Now, the photographer may have intended it exactly as it is, but I'm the judge, and that's why I haven't quite scored it up there, because my way of seeing would be as a pictorial image. I would like to see a little bit more craft and thought from the creative side, I guess.
Paul, could I ask you to speak as well, please? You've given it right on the average score there.
Yeah, I'm sitting there mainly for compositional reasons. I think it sort of falls away and a little bit distracting off to the right-hand side. And I've seen, again with Peter, I've seen quite a few images of this particular place, and further back with a vertical line, or there's lots of different opportunities to create more graphical strength and symmetry and or balance. I think visually, compositionally.
Diego, you have right of reply. Back to you.
I consider there is an art on processing images and popping out those colors. Being subtle, I consider it harder of cranking the slider and popping out the colors and saturation in certain cases. So in my side, I value the fact that he didn't overprocess the image and he didn't want to pop out all these colors that in other cases I consider unnecessary. But that's why. That's why we've got 5 of us. Correct.
Alrighty. Score is 86, solidly into the semi-finalist range. Thank you, Diego, for stepping in for Tanya. Could we have the next image, please? Okay. On my recent trip to New Zealand, I was lucky enough to witness a spectacular sight, a moon halo caused by moonlight passing through ice crystals in the atmosphere. This amazing display was made even more beautiful by the unique geological formations of limestone boulders. These formations were shaped over time by weathering and erosion, providing a perfect frame for the moon halo. This is shot at Castle Hill, New Zealand. 15 to 35mm Canon 2.8 lens on a Canon R5, ISO 4000. Team, this print has scored 88. However, Ari, you've given it a little bit more than that. Let me give you the microphone and you can perhaps tell us what you think.
So, yeah, this is the reason I scored it. I'm at 95. Mm-hmm. The moon halo it's incredibly really hard to photograph and frame it right with other subjects around. So I've photographed this myself, and it's highly the image is very well executed, and with that foreground details and textures and the leading to the moon, to me this is like poetry. I really love it. So yeah.
Right, let's hear from Peter Eastway. His score's a little lower than that.
Yeah, no, I was on 83 and I liked it for all the reasons that you've presented, and it's just a matter of scale, and I'm wondering whether I'm going to be tarred with the Russia being the hard old bugger on the judging panel this afternoon. Thank you for inviting me, Andrew. I agree. I think it's great. We do talk a little bit about degree of difficulty in capturing the image, and I'm possibly not putting as much emphasis on that. I'm figuring that we're in sort of, advanced, if not professional awards, and so if there's a degree of difficulty, that doesn't really impact me so much. But then again, I'm ignorant, but I look at it visually and I find it very strong, and that's why I've called it a semi-finalist. And we're using the same language, but we're coming from a different base, and that's just where we are, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Yes, Paul, you're actually, you've given it 88, which is the current
Yeah,
score.
I'm in the middle. I may consider coming up. I feel like if you look closely at this file and how incredible the detail is visually through every single pixel, all the way to the back of frame, the sharpness in particular, which is always a great challenging factor when you have a huge depth of field shooting with wide open apertures in particular. The wonderful design and the shape, the perfect positioning of that bow and how it just hints into the rocks, and almost the rocks become a part of that circular feature in the background, and this lovely kind of leading line through the middle just walking us into the frame, and the way that exposure's hand of shooting into the light is exceptional. I think I just talked myself up to finalist. There you go.
I think you've just given Ari his right of reply, actually. Ari, anything more to add?
Not really.
This image now scores... Oh, is it? Yes? This now scores 90 and is a finalist. Every point counts, because whoever gets the most points, whoever image gets the most points in this category wins it. Okay. Iceland, March 2022. The goal was to capture the aurora over the Fell Mountain. Feeling peaceful under the night sky with the Lady Aurora. Image taken with a Nikon 14-24 f2.8 on a Nikon D850, 6-second exposure. Thanks, folks. Ari and Mike. Thank you, team. We have an average score of 87, solid semi-finalist. And here we go. It's popped up now. I think we will accept that score, as everyone's scores are very, very close, and we don't have anyone who's more than 5 points away. That being said, I would like to get a comment, please, from Mike Sidonio. Can I give you the microphone?
What struck me about this image was the striations in the top right-hand corner are beautifully offset by the strata in that mountain. It could have been any mountain. Any mountain would have looked good, but that's what particularly caught my eye. There are a lot of green aurora photographs that we've all seen, and it takes a bit for something to stand out. And for me, that was the first thing that I noticed, is beautiful striations, sort of angled left to right on the top of the mountain, with strata in them, and then these striations in the aurora at the top right, and then right in between you got these beautiful curving, misty curtains. So a lovely image. I think originality is probably the only thing that's... I've seen so many green aurora shots that something needs to stand out, and that certainly did, but overall I think it was an excellent photograph.
Thank you, Mike. Could we have the next image, please? Alrighty, this is Interstellar, capturing the awe-inspiring beauty of this sacred land and its connection to ancient traditions as the fulfillment of a long-awaited journey. The exposures, there's 18 2-minute exposures at 1250 ISO, tracked, and the foreground is 10 half-second exposures at 2000 ISO. Could we have your scores, please, team? Thanks, Mike. All right, this image has scored 88. Solidly in the semi-finalist range. Please, Peter.
Just in the post-production at the end, just a little bit more contrast in the foreground would just give it the strength of the base, and then the sky's going to hang off it a little bit better. It's just so close. And so I understand what you're saying. It's a beautiful image.
Thank you, Peter. That's excellent feedback. Could we have the next image, please? Alrighty. What we have here is, oh boy, Yggdrasil. I'm attempting to pronounce that correctly. Mount Barker, South Australia, Samyang 12mm fisheye lens, Nikon D810A, exposure 30 seconds at ISO 3200, and Yggdrasil is the world tree. Says the information. Scored an image, this image has scored 88. Well done. Once again, you're almost of one mind with this image, with your scores all in that range. That said, could I get a quick comment from Tanya, please, on this one? Thanks, Tanya.
So this image, it's lovely the way the Milky Way is being captured, and you can really see the dust lanes running through. What I found quite interesting about it, though, is the way the tree has been captured, that it leads your eye up into the Milky Way, and that kind of composition I haven't seen before. So I really found that quite unique and lovely.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to the next image, please. Alrighty then. This end result is 343 photos over 85 minutes worth of satellite images blended together with a low light level photo used for the foreground, taken at the Pinnacles in Western Australia with a 24mm lens on a Sony A7. This image has scored 89. What's the challenge options here?
You can.
Ooh, I know he does.
I know I'm on 80.
Do you want to challenge yourself?
No. I'm making a comment. I've got a solution for it.
Well, let's discuss the image. Let's call a challenge then. Mike, you're the highest in this case at 93. I'd like you to speak first, if that's okay. And I'll give you the microphone so you can. Maybe you guys can just keep it over there.
Okay, what draws me to this photograph is I could be standing there. So what we have here is not a stretched entire sky that's had a foreground put in front of it because it looks good. You could actually stand here. That's the sky. That's how much of the sky you'd see. That speaks to me. The other thing that speaks to me is a termite mound, with billions and billions of ants doing their thing, totally oblivious of the universe, pointing straight up. It also shows what human beings are doing and how they're ruining our night sky, which is only going to get worse over time. So this clearly says that, and it really speaks to me because I cannot stand that fact and that's happening. So it's probably a bias, maybe, I don't know, but also like the element of the humanness on the left, which I'm assuming is a town out of the frame, which once again says this is what humans are doing. Ants aren't, humans are. So it has a real message. It's beautifully composed. I love it.
I'm going to call on Peter to talk on this one because you're right on the cusp.
You know, I wanted to give this a finalist, and I went up and then I just found that termite mound was a little bit soft. Now, I don't know whether it's depth of field or whether it was image shake or focus or whatever it was, but I love that sky. I mean, that sky has just got that etching feeling. I know it's a bad thing, I know, but I love it from a graphic point of view. But this could be fixed. If you go to Topaz Image Sharpener and put it in there, it will sharpen up that termite mound. And if only you could put it in next year and then win a finalist there. But that's the only thing that just held me back. I hope I'm right, and that's not my eyesight that's letting me down. But if that termite mound were sharp, it would be way up there.
I'm going to ask you to pass the speaking stick over to Tanya, please. Tanya's score is in support of Mike's.
Yes, and I feel like this is an image that I wish we didn't we couldn't create, but I feel like it's something that everybody should see, that this is the problem that we're causing, and yet it does have that artistic element, which is absolutely beautiful. So it's kind of an image that terrifies me, and I also find absolutely beautiful at the same time.
It's a little bit frightening thinking about what Elon Musk's doing up there for us all at the moment, isn't it?
Just on that. He's doubled the amount of active satellites within 2 years.
Holy
So there's now 8,000 active satellites, let alone all the inactive debris, rocket debris, orbital debris. Yeah, if we get up to 40,000, 80,000 satellites up there, we're in trouble.
Back to you, Mike. You're right.
And I think, was this Western Australia this was taken?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's also poignant because the square kilometre array isn't that far from this, where this was taken, and the same millions of satellites are ruining their observations as well. So we're losing the radio sky and we're also losing the optical sky. So I love and hate this image.
Let's rescore, folks. Mike, you can keep your score, please, in this one. But I'll need you to re-enter. I think I'm challenging it, so I'm letting you challenge. I'm letting you rescore. 93 for you. How are you going out there, audience? You guys getting something out of this? You happy? You're very quiet.
Interesting. There's a
Alrighty, this image has gone up to 90, so well done, folks. It's now a finalist. Alrighty, next image, thanks. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we have a HARGB tracked panorama, 92 total image integration. The night was vlogged for my YouTube behind the scenes on how this image was captured. You can find out that information later, but it was taken in Coonabarabra in New South Wales using a Sigma Art 41.4, modified Sony camera, astronomic 12mm HA filter. All the exposure details have been provided. Suffice to say that it's impressive in the number of captures. The motivation was to show how man-made structures changed over time under a sky that remains the same. The windmill was built in 1918 and the concrete tank sometime after that, and in recent years the solar pump, all under a sky that remains timeless due to the Bortle 1 sky for this image. I'll get you to score the image, please, folks. And this image has scored 87, solid semi-finalist. Your scores are, oh, you can clap. It's okay. It's a very good score, of which you are all very similar in this instance. But in this case, I'm going to ask Ari, because he's dying to speak, what might push that one over the line to a finalist, Ari?
The only thing that let me back on this image was just a bit that red light on the bottom left of the image, and that's the headlight, or probably from the tracker there is a soft haze on the left light. That for someone it might be a bit subjective. Someone might look at it as a lead-in point. But yeah, that's the only thing that let me a little bit down. So could be fixed on post-production, on post-edit, so to lift it a bit more.
This image is taken at Castle Hill, New Zealand. It's a panorama. And we are seeing a speechless spectacle, a lunar halo, moonlight reflecting off ice crystals, illuminating magnificent limestone boulders, adding majesty to an awe-inspiring scene. It's taken on a Canon R5 with a 15 to 35mm lens. Alrighty. Thanks, folks. This image has scored 85. It's a very solid semi-finalist. All your scores are very, very close. So I'm going to ask Tim for comment, please.
On ways to improve, or?
Right up next. Yes, on ways to perhaps improve the image's score overall.
Okay. Interesting composition. Love the curve in the foreground, and just the positioning of the moon in that composition. The thing that held me back was when you looking close around the horizon line around the rocks, there's some blue fringing, and that would just indicate that maybe your selective masking just needs to move a pixel or two just to get rid of that. So that little fine detail around the edge of the rocks and sorting that out would certainly lift it.
Alrighty. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to suggest maybe a crop top and bottom just to get a little bit more flow left to right with the panorama might make it stronger compositionally.
Thank you, Peter. Righty. This is taken at Breeza in New South Wales on a Samyang 85mm 1.4 with a HA modified Sony. There's 245 images in total, tracked, sky blended with the foreground. The night was vlogged for the YouTube channel, so you can go and have a look at the entrance YouTube later on. And this old barn was built as a set piece for the Superman movie. The entrant wanted to challenge what was possible in a nightscape image, so instead of shooting a panorama with a wide-angle lens, they decided to shoot the full arch with an 85mm lens. The image size was 5 gigapixels.
There's an image in the foreground.
You sent it? Thank you. There we go. This image has scored an average of 86. Now, if my calculations are correct, Ari, you are invited to challenge this one. You are 5 points away from that average at 91. So I'll get you to speak to the print, please, sir.
It is a beautiful image, very well executed. The subject is it's very nice. The Milky Way capturing in that position again, it's quite hard to capture the full arch of the Milky Way on that side, so on almost east from the top. I kind of really enjoy also the image has got plenty of space all around. It's quite captivating image, so I'll be interested to see.
Thanks, Ari. We'll get some feedback from Tanya, please.
Again, I agree. It's a fantastic image, and I love the placement of the Milky Way is really great, and also, in fact, even the way you've got the spiral, the curve in the ground, and that mirrors the Milky Way is lovely. I think, to me, it's while the position of the building is really great, I feel that there's no mystery. There's no, in some ways, it's there. And so that's what I find is lacking. I don't know the technical way to put forward any suggestions. Maybe someone else on the panel can, but I just feel that it's a lovely image, but it just lacks that little. It's a bit too in your face.
Thanks, Tanya. Peter, I think you'd like to add something to the debate.
Well, just to pick up on you, Tanya, I think maybe the term I would use is it's a bit overlit. And when we look at the foreground there is no mystery. And imagine that with, you've got the right-hand side of the barn, leave that lit, darken down the left-hand side, you've got some direction, darken down the foreground. I look at a lot of astro work, which is absolutely gorgeous, but I just wish sometimes the astrophotographers would go and learn a little bit more about the history of landscape painting and how light can really inform and create that mystery that you're talking about, because we're all basically humans at the end of the day, even me.
Thank you, Peter. Ari, you're right of reply if you have something more to add.
Not really. Like, I'm just curious to see if this image can go.
Let's rescore this image, folks. Ari, you're locked in at 91. Please re-enter your 91. And our score now is... Score is now 87. Solid semi-finalist image. Now. Alrighty, folks. Next image is up there for you. MOA _ LL under the MOA 2 under the stars, showcasing the MOA 2 telescope at Mount John Observatory, the largest telescope in New Zealand. Very few people are able to capture the telescope at night as the observatory is closed. The entrants spent their summer working at the observatory as part of their engineering internship, so was able to not only photograph the telescopes but also use and maintain them. Mount John Observatory, Nikon Z50, Astro modded Z6 camera. This is a 50-panel mosaic of 60-second exposures of the MOA 2 telescope. Thanks, Kay. Alrighty, folks, thank you. This image has scored 89 and is very close, very, very close to a finalist. So, you guys are all of one mind. Does anyone, you want to challenge this? Because you're really close.
The old school could. It's only the new school under the new regime.
You're on 92.
I'm on 92.
Go ahead and challenge. And I'm allowing that because two of you are in that range.
Well, I think it's only fair. If we've got the guts to come and give it a finalist, we should be able to talk. But I'll take that up with the administration later on. I suppose I was almost channeling Turner and his use of colour and paint and light and colour as I'm looking at that sky, and I find it, quite. It's emotive, it's perhaps interpretive, it might not be real, I don't know. I'm imagining that time someone has certainly played with the saturation slider, but in terms of giving me an emotive response, so we're not talking about mystery so much as I can see most of it here, but it's very picturesque. And in this section here, I'm congratulating the photographer. The colour on the observatory itself is neutral, which means that the colour in the sky stands out. I'm of two minds of the road and the little, the post, the yellow post. It sort of adds and it detracts at the same time. When it goes into oblivion like that, no, we're back on track. So for me, I just felt that as a landscape, it was worthy of a finalist and a chance at the pot of gold at the end.
Alrighty then. Now, you're all really close in scores on this one. Tanya, you're just out of the finalist range.
And I can very easily be persuaded to move up. It was a hard call. I actually really like the road. I like the placement of that and how it leads up. And it's really used the cloud and the inferno type emotive is what comes to me. And I suppose in some ways I may well have marked it down a little because of the telescope. It's not because I don't like it, but because I suppose where was I love the placement of it and the lighting, but maybe it was just, it's an interesting one, but possibly. Yes, yeah, exactly.
There's a really interesting way that they've framed the telescope under the arch of the Milky Way, which is containing it quite beautifully there, and it's like a little tour of all the cool emission nebula in the Milky Way there, isn't it? Peter, right of reply. Sorry, Diego. Ari, go ahead.
This is beautiful. I totally agree with what has been said. The only thing that I would suggest probably to the photographer, this image has got great details in the foreground. There's a bit of saturation in the sky because of the haze might have helped that saturation going up a bit, but the foreground, it might have been shot in blue hour or during the blue moon, which gives a bit of a blue cast in foreground. And to me, it didn't match, in my way of thinking, the foreground with the sky. So I would suggest to the photographer probably dial back that blue in the foreground, and this image would would be in another level for me. But I'm still willing to go up a bit because of what Peter said.
He
Thanks
can
for
have
that.
one more crack and see if he can tip you over the edge.
Well, yeah, well, I'm not actually wanting to tip you over the edge because we've got to be individuals here, but I think I've said what I wanted. I think it's really strong. For me, it was a finalist because of its painterly rendition, and it's a non-scientist here looking at it and saying, I could be convinced to try and understand what the hell those scientist people do actually talk about from time to time.
Alrighty, folks. Thank you, Peter. You can lock in your 92, and the rest. Actually, you can rescore it. You can rescore it because I challenged that one. Thank you. See, that's what Kay's for, to keep me on the straight and level. Thank you, Kay.
I don't want to influence the panel.
So feel free to score the image, folks. Thank you, Kay. Yeah, we're just waiting on Ari's score to come in. There it is. Print scores finalist now at 90. Could we have the next image, please? This is a tracked panorama of the Milky Way. The image, what have we got here? HA modified Sony. This is 100 exposures. The foreground was focus stacked. And this is canola, a popular springtime landscape image. The photographer wanted to see golden yellow leaves under the golden dust of the Milky Way. Due to using the 40mm lens for the panorama, the entrant had to focus stack the foreground, and utilising the blue hour to capture the foreground so they could limit the movement of the plants. The old barn is a perfect subject to centre the frame, and symmetry was the aim of the image, both in colour and shape. Shot at Breezer, New South Wales. Scores, please, team. Oh, thank you. Alrighty. Just waiting on yours, Mike. Thank you, mate. Just refresh if that doesn't let you in. This one has averaged 87. I bet you will. I'd expect nothing less at 95. So you're working with 85, 87, 86 and 84. So I'll find the talking stick.
No, that's okay. This is where judges are different, and I suppose what I love about this is just the immediate visual impact. The central composition I love. People say you're supposed to put things over on the left and the right. I actually think that there are many opportunities for a central composition to work brilliantly well. I love the vignetting up in the sky, which isn't in the foreground, so it's obviously an intentional device. The use of colour is very strong. It challenges us. It's not really a night sky in some ways. It's almost an outer worldly sky, and the number of exposures there, I'm just figuring we've got a compression issue or whatever we're looking on the screen. I'm assuming that barn is actually tack sharp to some extent. It just spoke to me, and that's why I gave it such a high score. But I can understand you guys down a few marks lower than me, and that's all right. But if you'd like to join me, that's okay. But I don't know what else to say. Either it speaks to you or it doesn't.
Well, let's hear what Tanya has to say then and see what happens then.
Okay.
Sorry, Tanya.
So certainly the colouring of it captures it really well. I think to me though, my eye gets drawn to it was canola, isn't it? So needing something that actually lifts your eye up into the sky, I don't feel like the barn is beautiful in the way it is centred in the middle, but that's the thing that's pulling it back for me is where's that lift up to enjoy the magnificent sky.
I'll get Mike to do this one if that's okay.
Okay, obviously there's no doubt this is a beautiful looking image. For me, it's the context. The Milky Way is an entire galaxy. It's massive. It covers the whole sky, goes from right behind you to right in front of you. The barn is a barn. It shouldn't be challenging the Milky Way. For me, it challenges the Milky Way way too much to make this a finalist image. It needs to be a barn. The Milky Way is the subject, the Milky Way is the hero. So that's all that I would say. And I mean, you know, it's a moderately minor thing. It's only the reason I didn't give it a finalist type score, because to me it wasn't in context.
Thanks, Mike. I'll get you to pass back to Peter for his right of reply.
Yeah, no, I think the comments are valid. I would, if I were doing it myself, I'd also darken the bottom a little bit so that the eye is let in there. I don't have the same issue with the barn and the Milky Way. I love the way the two work together, but it's our backgrounds that inform us differently, and that's why we've got 5 judges. So thank you.
Alrighty, thanks, team. I'm going to ask you to rescore the image. We are getting a little shorter Sorry, I'll get this right. We need to be a little quicker on our deliberations and debates, if that's okay. So, scores, please, team. Thank you, Peter. You're locked in at 95. You've brought them up to 88. Well done. Could we have the next image, please? Thanks. All right, this is a single shot. Cropped moon rising over the sea level under the Milky Way, taken from Tom Murray Mountain Lookout, New South Wales. And it's 20-second exposure at ISO 5000, using a Canon 6D and a 15mm to 30mm Tamron lens. So I'll ask you to score this one, please. Just waiting on yours, Mike. There it is. Thank you very much. This print scores 89. It's really close. So we've got 89, 89, 90, 92 and 83. I'm going to challenge this one because it's so close. We better just sort it out. But I'm going to get it sorted out quickly. Ari, you're first. Thank you.
This is a fantastic image to capture it with a single shot and bring in all together all the elements of the sky and the foreground. And that really just, the photographer has shown a lot of high skills in capturing, and also the editing is very subtle. So beautiful. I could look at it forever. It's a beautiful image. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right, Diego, do you have anything to add just about this image?
My opinion is that it is all I want to see in my not uneducated way of an astro image, a single shot, everything super sharp, well processed. That's what I see on that image. Everything is in the balance, the way it's composed, and that's why my point.
Okay. Mike, quickly?
Just very quickly, for me it's a believable image. Again, I could be standing here, that could be my backyard, and I could be the happiest man, even happier than Eagle View, up in the Tinderies. If I walked out my backyard and I stood on my veranda and saw that, I know that may not be a veranda, but that's what I'm thinking there. Beautiful natural colour, taken in one shot's unbelievable, beautifully composed, excellent image.
All right, as I challenge that one, I'm going to ask you all to rescore now, please. And the image now scores, by majority, 89. So, looks like we'll stay at semi-finalist level for that one, folks, but so close. Well done to the entrant. Next image, please. The dead trees off the shores of Lake Tulondo, always make for moody scenes. These two seem to me to be guardians of the galaxy as the limbs reached right to the core of the Milky Way. This is taken in Victoria, Australia at Tulondo Reservoir. 14 to 24 mil Nikon Z on a Z7 II. Multiple 15-second exposures stacked. This image has scored an average of 87. That's a solid semi-finalist score. Once again, your scores are all very similar. Does anyone desperately want to challenge this one, or are you happy to let it sit at 87? I think we'll leave it sit at 87 in that case. Thank you. What we will do, though, is we might grab a comment. Yes, I was about to say we'll get a comment from Harry, because I know he's dying to.
Yeah, no, just
Go ahead, mate.
It's a beautiful image. My compliments to the photographer. The only thing that, the photographer has used quite a bit the noise reduction, so, and has lost a bit of details in the Milky Way. So that's the only thing that I suggest to be careful with those sliders on noise reduction. That's all.
Thanks, Harry. Why am I using that? I've got this. Next image, please. This is Mitre Rock at Mount Arapiles in Victoria. Tracked Milky Way panorama over Mitre Rock. Light pollution from the nearby town of Horsham can be seen on the left side of the image. Taken on a 40mm Sigma lens with a Sony A7 III modified camera. 21 images stacked for the foreground at 2-minute exposures. And the sky is 60 tracked images of 20-second exposures. Alrighty then. So, this image has scored an average of 87, solid semi-finalist score. Well done. As the scoring is so similar within the range, we won't challenge this one, but we will call for a comment from Tanya, please.
The foreground in this one I think is really beautifully lit, and to capture that kind of that it's there, but at the same time the hero is the sky. And I really love the inclusion of the H-alpha emission to bring out that redness in the Milky Way and to see beyond what we would normally see with our eyes.
The colours of Rho Ophiuchi
Yep.
are quite beautiful in this as well.
Yeah, they're lovely.
Let's go to the next image, please, team. Alrighty. The image is a 270-degree panorama, 2 rows, one for the sky and one for the foreground, using a homemade panorama head on a tripod, a Canon 6D, image taken at Boreen Point in Queensland. And what we're seeing are tree strokes the emu chin. Taken there. I'll get this right in a minute. The iconic marriage tree overhanging Lake Cootharaba on a beautifully still night with the Milky Way arching over the tree. Those with a keen eye might see the emu in the Milky Way with its neck curling over the tree with some twigs stroking the underside of the emu's head, adjacent to the Southern Cross on the right. Let's get your scores. Just waiting on you, Mr. Eastway. Thank you very much. Alrighty then. Well, we're straight into an average of 90, so it's a finalist. Don't think... No? Oh, I beg your pardon. It's that clever average, majority? Okay, it's a majority 89. It's an average of 90. We are going to sort this one out though because we have a 97 in there at Ari. So Ari, I'm going to get you to speak to the print, please. Image. I'll get that right one day.
This image speaks to me in so many ways. It's just so well executed. The photographer is like, he knows a lot about many things, not just technicalities and art and everything. But yeah, the image is executed so good, and there is so many things that can let down the image, like the highlights of the back behind the tree, and he has used that as a beautiful light to make that tree. That it's an ordinary tree, but it's created so beautifully with the Milky Way. There's a lot of stories in this image. The reflection of the Milky Way in the front, the way it flows from left to right, the subtlety. It is a night image. This is just spectacular. I really love it.
Let's hand over to Peter, whose score is a little less, and Ari, let's not assume that the entrant is a he.
Yeah. Look, Ari, I agree with what you said, and it comes to a matter of degree. I think it is beautifully executed. My background, I guess, when I look at the image is that as strong as it is, all the curvature of the panorama and all of that, I don't know whether that's actually enhancing the landscape for me, which is unusual for someone like me who doesn't believe in reality at all when it comes to photographs. But I just find that it works really well, and I've scored it, in my mind, a good score, which is a semi-finalist, not a finalist like you, so it's just a matter of degree.
Over to Mike. Mike's at the higher end as well.
Yeah, so what I like about this and what it illustrates to me is when you're trying to take a photograph of everything around you, because don't forget, what's in the foreground is all around that photographer, what's in the sky is all around that photographer. So to believably get that into one frame without cheating, that's how you do it. This is a really good capture of everything around you and displaying it accurately. So that foreground is everything around them. It's not a truncated or narrow field of view that's been put in front as a foreground in front of a 360-degree panorama of the Milky Way. So that's a real image. The other thing that I love, the shape of the water matches all the shapes in the sand. Also, the shape of the water looks like Australia. So it just speaks to me. I think like Ari, I could be there. The lighting's natural. She hasn't overlit the tree. It's a really good image. I think it's deserving of a finalist image.
Alrighty, Ari, has it all been said?
Yeah, I totally agree with Mike.
Right.
Like, once again, the photographer is like, it's showing quite a lot of techniques here, and light pollution is another thing that it's a big problem for taking astrophotography. But he has used that positively. Like there's a back, the light that it's light in the foreground that comes from some light from the back, like kind of houses or street lights, and he has used that so well on connecting everything. So. This for me sits really, really high on finals.
All right, you're on 97. You can lock that in, and let's see what happens when everyone else rescores this image. And the winner is. This image now scores 91. Alrighty. Ari, we're going to have a quick judge change. Tim, can I ask you back on the panel? Ari, can I get you to swap out with Tim Moon, please? While that's happening, we'll go to the next image. Let's have a look at the information. Alrighty, folks. The band of the Milky Way forms arch behind Mount Cook and Mount Tasman Plateau, Hut, and Hochstetter Glacier feature in the foreground. So the Plateau Hut, how do you pronounce that? You're from New Zealand. Aoraki Mount Cook National Park, New Zealand. Thank you, UK. Aoraki, Mount Cook and Mount Tasman are the two tallest mountains in New Zealand, lie beyond the Plateau Hut and the Great Grand Plateau, each peak towering well over 3,000 metres above sea level. As the glowing band of our home galaxy, the Milky Way, begins to set in the west, forming an arch across the horizon like a blanket of sleeping giants. Air glow in the Earth's upper atmosphere also adds vibrant reds and greens to the skyline. So, let's get some scores. Tim, are you logged in and everything? I am now. Thank you. Tom. New Zealand. I apologise to all the New Zealanders listening to us right now. This image has scored 85, solidly in the semi-finalist range. Tanya, could I get a comment from you on this? Tanya, could I get a comment from this?
So what I really find fascinating about this photo is the way the Milky Way, the arch of the Milky Way, and the way the neck of the emu, so towards the left, moves downwards on that diagonal, is matching the peaks of the mountains as you go through. I think for me what detracts from the image is actually the air glow. It's adding too much vibrant colour in a scene that may well have been beautiful as a blending up into just a really dark, deep sky that you could get lost in.
Next image, please. Thank you. Okay. Tulondo Reservoir, Tulondo, Victoria, Australia. Taken right before the Milky Way disappeared into blue hour on a silent, foggy morning. The dead trees scattered throughout Lake Tulondo create an eerie yet beautiful scene under the stars. A Sigma 50mm 1.4 art lens on a Nikon D850. It's a 13-frame single-row panorama. We have an average of 89. We have a score of 90, and we have Tanya at 96. Alrighty then, you get the challenge.
And I will. This is definitely an image that speaks to me in that I feel it really, we've lost the barrier between where is the ground and then what is up in the sky, where is the foreground and what is up into the sky with the beautiful fog, and then matching the colours of the sky to really draw out, so you just have this lovely, again, I don't know the technical photography terms, but to me it's a lovely colour palette that's been used. The symmetry of the trees, it's so stark and beautiful. I just want to fall into this image.
Tim, you're the lowest scoring in this one at 81.
Look, I can agree with the, it's fantastic conditions, fantastic having that mist on the lake and wandering through the trees and having that fantastic celestial background. The thing that just holds me back is the contrast haloing around the trees. It's just too much of a distraction for me. And I'm just wondering whether a crop might help, but fantastic conditions, I agree. But just those haloing around the trees is just too much.
Peter Eastway, you're also in the...
I love the haloing around the trees.
That's why there's 5 of them.
And I'm not, I mean, I just think of Caspar David Friedrich and his, his halos, but as a painting, and that's what I'm responding to as well. I'm not quite too sure about the technical side and whether there's enough pixels there or whether the image we're looking on the screen is a little bit stretched or whatever, but I just think from an emotive point of view, it's way up there. So you're not alone up there, Tanya, at all. I reckon it's great. And I think it automatically got into the finalists, didn't it, on the majority score?
It's there. Yes.
Yeah, fantastic, great. I don't have to say anything more.
No,
Tanya, back to
pass
you.
it back to Tanya. Tanya, so she can finish her conversation. Oh, you've said enough? All right. All right, let's rescore, folks. Alrighty. Image now scores 90 in every range, every way possible. Alrighty, definitely a finalist. You guys good?
Yeah, good.
All right, next image, please.
Lasagna?
Thanks, Kay. Alrighty, Nugget Point Lighthouse, Catlins, New Zealand. An amazing display of lights. Initially, sorry, just reading and seeing what's relevant to the image. Aurora Australis at Nugget Point Lighthouse. 2 rows of 6 images shot at 24mm. Nikon D750, Tamron 24 to 70mm lens. 10-second exposure. Image score is 84. Solid semi-finalist. We will take a comment on this one from you now, Mike, because you want to talk about it.
Yes, what was interesting, I was trying to work out whether the foreground was actually a 360-degree panorama bent around. It doesn't appear to be, it appears to be a bay. Oh, because it's a very lovely photograph. It's very gentle. I like the lighthouse on the left. I think the foreground's nicely lit. It just had that overall really nice look to it, but it didn't jump out at me and grab me. Otherwise, excellent.
Next image, please. Thanks, Mike. Okay. A full spherical 360-degree panoramic image of our little planet surrounded by northern lights. This is a full spherical 360-degree panorama in stereographic projection. The image consists of 4 shots at 90 degrees and 1 zenith shot. It's taken at Westfjords, Iceland, using a 8mm fisheye lens on a Sony A7R III. Thanks, Mike. This image averages 87, solidly in the semi-finalist range. You're all pretty much of one mind. Do you want to take it on? No. You happy? Yep. All right. In that case, I'm going to... Who wants to comment on this one? They all sat back. Come on, Peter. Give the entrance and feedback.
But the image has got some fantastic impact, and it's the technique that's being used that has created that impact. And my challenge to the entrant is that if you did another 10 shots like this with that aurora, what would you do differently in the foreground? In other words, what's underneath, what the earth is? Because I think if you had a different standpoint, you're going to say lots of reasons why you couldn't be anywhere else, but I just find the middle of it is what lets me down. The surroundings is fantastic, but in a pictorial context, I think the centre of the image needs to have something different, something more.
And I expect as a stitching exercise that would have been quite a challenge to have put that together. In this case, the entrant's done a fabulous job of that side of it. But thank you for your comments there. Let's go to the next image, folks. Alrighty, this is a tracked panorama showing the full arch and faint air glow. It's taken at Coonabarabran in New South Wales, Sigma Art 40mm lens on a HA modified Sony. This is a 47 image panorama. Taken at grazing land under Bortle 1 skies in Australia, first dark sky reserve in the Warrumbungles National Park, New South Wales. So, the entrance suggests that this is the kind of thing that people drive past every day, but what does it look like at night? Oh, welcome back. Thank you. Prince, the image average is 84. And as you're all almost of one mind here, Tanya, could I ask you to comment on this one, please?
Absolutely. Again, it's the use of the foreground and the lighting of that, and I feel like there's a good scale balance between the tree and lifting you up into the sky and the way the Milky Way disappears into the air glow on either side just creates a really lovely composition.
Thank you, Tanya. Could we have the next image, please? Just hang on a minute. Okay. Blue Mountains, Australia. Explored beyond tourist spots in the Blue Mountains to uncover thrilling adventures and witness stunning nightscapes embracing the humbling experience under nature's vast sky. This is an automated tracked panorama and using a Canon 15mm lens and a star tracker, a Benro Polaris.
Doesn't that change if it's foreground, background? Foreground sky?
Oh, sorry, it's just disappeared. One sec. It says the sky is 16 photos tracked and the 800 ISO 24mm. The foreground is 10 photos stacked, so yes. Image has scored 87 and is solidly in the semi-finalist scoring range. And you are on your own. I'll let you know what you're working with. You've got a couple of 88s, an 85 and an 83. Over to you, sir.
Well, I think in this instance, we've got a unique composition, and that's what I'm enjoying, is something I haven't seen before and the way that it's presented. We have some issues with the foreground maybe being a little bit lighter, but just the composition there with looking down the valley and that isolated tree sitting on that rock there, it's something I haven't seen before, so I'm responding to that. Nicely done.
Mike, you're a bit lower than that.
Yeah, look, it's a fantastic image. For me, it's a bit like I said, I commented on one of the other images. The Milky Way is an enormous thing. It's an entire galaxy, and it just looks a little bit like it's been placed there. The canyon itself is a little bit too grand for me, but beautiful photograph. But I'm just not feeling the believability in this one for me. It seems a little staged and a little composed, even though it probably isn't a composite. But still an excellent image, and the colours in the Milky Way really are very good. They're very natural looking, but it's just that feeling. I can't stand there and imagine I'm seeing that. Not quite.
Diego, just quickly, got anything to add?
I'm at the same boat you are. It's not what I believe I would see if I was there. I would have given more protagonism to the Milky Way in the photo. But I like the canyon, but I wouldn't make it as big. That's only my complaint about it.
Okay. Tanya, something else?
I would just like to add, that's one of the reasons I like this photo, is because they have played with the scale, and I think this time, sometimes you can play and not get it right, but I feel like they have, because you end up kind of with a full circle end up happening there, which I'm really drawn. The galaxy is the top loop of the circle, and then the canyon completes it, and so, yeah, it's interesting.
back to you, Tim. I wonder what would have happened if the photographer had just lowered the camera a little bit to get that tree on the horizon.
A little bit higher, but then you wouldn't have the outline on the top of the knoll there, sitting down below.
Yeah.
So, well, I've heard what the others have to say, but you know, my passion's more with the composition than the grandiose nature of the Milky Way. So I'm happy with that compromise in the image.
Let's rescore, folks. You're locked in at 92. Alrighty then, thank you very much. We now have a score of 88. Well done. Every point counts. Tim, on that note, I'm going to swap you out, if that's all right, for a moment. I'd like to bring Paul Holden back to the panel. Paul, you still with us? Hiding over there in the corner?
You get to hold that.
Good evening.
Thank you, Tim. Oh, speak. Thank you. Just a reminder for you lovely people out there, Mike Sidonio will be giving us a keynote presentation this evening next door. I'm sure Mike's got plenty to talk about. You've heard all his words of wisdom so far. So we look forward to your presentation, sir. Next image, please. Alrighty. So, how do you say that again one more time? Aoraki? Aoraki National Park, New Zealand. The Milky Way rising over the Aoraki National Park from the Tasman Glacier viewpoint. Nikon Z7. Foreground is 12 images at 18mm. The sky is 27 images. And it's tracked with a Skywatcher Star Adventurer Pro. Camera is a Nikon Z7. 87. That's a very solid score. Your scores are all very, very close. So we'll retain that score, I think, at 87 in this case. But we will get a comment from the judge who scored at 87. And that's you, Diego. Speak to the print image.
Congratulations to the photographer. I like his idea and the fact that I see the... Sorry?
The photographer's idea.
I like the photographer idea. It makes me feel I'm in another planet. That's what I feel about the photo. I would have liked to have a bit more clarity on the Milky Way. Hence, that's why my qualification of it.
Excellent. Thank you, Diego. Could we go to the next image, please, folks? Alrighty. Lake Tyrrell, Victoria. Star trail images with the photographer in the foreground over the mirror reflection of Lake Tyrrell. The photographer has said that as spectacular as the scene was, it needed some foreground interest, and the only thing around was me. So a selfie it became. 77 star images and 1 foreground image. Star images of 30 seconds. We got it. We got it. It's coming through now. This image has scored 87. And we will take a comment from Diego. You're an 88. I'll get you to speak to this one, please. Who's got the talking stick? There we are.
The star trails brings me into the position where the person is looking at the sky. Would have liked to see a bit more symmetry between up and down. That's only a personal preference. Star color and execution, I believe, is good. The reflection idea, it's excellent. And I believe I would have liked a lot to be there with that person. That's what I like about the photo.
Do you think, as a photographer, perhaps if the photographer was crouching down, perhaps not cutting themselves in half here with the horizon, may have been a stronger image?
Yes, you're right. Now that I imagine it, it would be a valid point. Yes, that's correct.
Just a thought. Did you want to add something quickly there, Paul?
Yeah, I feel like they're almost symbolically connecting the two sides of the image by positioning them there, Andrew. What I feel a little bit awkward compositionally about this is the position of the horizon. It's in this awkward kind of off-centre but not quite centre sort of position. But at the same time, I recognise you'd lose that central reflection above and below. But it certainly feels a hint off balance for me compositionally.
Thanks, folks. That's excellent feedback passed on to the entrant. Let's go to the next image. Alrighty, Brayshaw's hut under the full arch of the Milky Way. Brayshaw's hut at Namadigi National Park in the ACT. Sigma 35mm art lens, 5 rows of 11 exposures, 13 seconds per shot, ISO 6400. The image scores 88. That's a solid semi-finalist. Alrighty. So Peter, I'm going to get you to comment on the image because you kind of did.
So I think in terms of tonality and colour and light, this is exquisite. My hesitation, and we're a little bit behind the scenes, is the subject tack sharp? And I don't know whether it is. The file that we're looking at the moment, at least the file that I'm looking at, and I've asked to see it enlarged, is just a little bit soft, and that's why I couldn't put it into the finalist range. If it were tack sharp, and apologies to the entrant if it is tack sharp, but the file we've got at the moment, or the file that's submitted, is just missing that beautiful image, lovely light.
Thank you, Peter. Next image, please. Okay. Coonabarabra, New South Wales. This image is a HA RGB tracked panorama taken under Bortle 1 skies, which is the perfect location to capture not just the Milky Way, but the intense gravity wave air glow that is present. 31 image tracked panorama. Samyang 24mm 1.8, modified Sony with astronomic 12mm HA filter. Alrighty, folks. So this image has averaged 83. So that puts it in semi-finalist territory. And, sorry, my screen, there it is, it's back. I'm going to ask for a comment because you're all very close in your scores. Literally, there's only a couple of points between you all. So who haven't we heard from for a little while?
Lovely. Sorry. It's a lovely shot in terms of you get the feeling of the expanse of both the landscape and the sky above, and while getting all of that air glow in another image might be really great, but I feel with this foreground it detracts. So that would be my feedback. I think I don't think that adds to the image, unfortunately, in this case.
Could I ask your professional advice a little bit here? What is intense gravity wave air glow for those, listening in at home?
So pretty much what it's about is the fact that you're getting the ripples there in the, this is what I believe, in the air glow. So the air glow is the yellow and orange towards the horizon, and you're actually picking up the ripples like a ripple on a pond. And so that is an interesting phenomena, but I don't think in this case it enhances the image.
But it is an interesting phenomenon, not one I've seen too often in
absolutely,
photographs.
and well done to the photographer too.
Thank you, Tanya. Next image, please. Okay, Lake Tyrrell, Victoria. Tracked Milky Way panorama of an old bus at Lake Tyrrell. 9 images of the foreground, 30-second exposures. 40 tracked images of the sky, 1 minute exposures. Mike, I don't have your score. Thank you. Now I do. This image is scored 86. Currently sitting in semi-finalist range. Ooh, hold on a second. You really want to take this on, don't you? I can tell.
Well, yeah, I would like to take it on.
Where's the device? There it is.
Yeah, I'll challenge this.
You're working with 88, 83, 86, 82.
Okay, well, let's get it up a few points anyway. I'm up in the finalist range because I've been pontificating all afternoon about how the sky should sit in with the landscape and work together. And for my money, the sky and the landscape gel very, very well. I like the coloration in there. I like the fact that we've got the subject, the foreground it's got the right balance of light and contrast, etc. It's very arresting, and for that I commended it. I find it very pictorial. I can see that, from a astro point of view, that maybe the processing up there is perhaps softened off a few bits and denoised and all that sort of stuff. But for a painterly rendition, I find this delightful, and maybe I'm just an old bus.
Good on you.
Oh, bus fanatic.
Good on you. Tanya, you're at the other end of the scoring range. Could I ask for your comments, please?
Yes, and I do agree. I feel, however, I don't think they sit as nicely together. I think if you had each separately, it works well, but I don't get that same reaction of bringing that they're in harmony. I feel like it's jarring in some way.
Paul, back to you. Over to you.
I'm a little bit more on Peter's side of the bus. I do feel like the pictorial element is really quite magnificent, and the tonality and the way that the tonal range is handled on the bus in particular places it beautifully. And there's a lovely sort of extra depth by that linear kind of framing that pulls you down back into the frame as well. I sort of felt a little bit distracted by the big green sort of elements on the right, and I wasn't sure if the bottom part of the foreground sort of supported it or took away a little bit because it has less interest. But I do feel like it's beautifully placed with a lovely sense of breadth and space.
Over to you, sir. You started this show.
Yeah, well, that's right. I don't disagree. It becomes a matter of detail. I mean, the category we're in, we can't necessarily go and clone out some of those things. I'd have a field day with this and some of the other categories, but limits is limits, aren't they, guys? So the photographer's kept within the limits and of what's acceptable. I find it very strong, and I'm quite comfortable with my score at, I think it was 93.
Yeah, thereabouts, yep. I'm going to ask you to lock that in and rescore the image. You locked in at 93. Yes, that's correct. Why does the magic bus keep going through my head now from the Who? Image scores now 88. Well done. This is taken at Coonabarabran, New South Wales, on a Sigma Art 40. You're looking at a tracked panorama, once again an HA-RGB 90-second exposure integration. Sorry, 90 exposure integration, I do beg your pardon. The old house was the home for a farmer and his family years ago. While the house over the years has changed so much, the sky hasn't. We can see the view he would have if he looked up every night after long days working the land. This image was captured using 2 cameras and identical lenses on the same tracking mount to simultaneously capture the HA and the RGB to create a full arch panorama. Here it is, thank you very much. Image score is 87. And We're all very close with that one. You happy with that? Okay. In that case, I'm going to call on a comment from Mike, please.
Just a reminder to everybody who's watching this, this is really, really difficult. We have so many amazing photographs that are being shown here, and after you see one after the other, it's like, oh my goodness, there are so many good photographs. How do we separate them so the finest, littlest things can come into it? So for me, this is an example I think I've mentioned in a couple of my other comments. It's really difficult when you combine a lifelike scene that's in front of you trying to present as a normal photograph and then also encompass the entire sky. It's a very fine line between not quite getting it right and not quite making it look real, so you don't quite feel you can be there. I have that just slight feeling with this one. Beautiful photograph, but I can't see myself standing there. The house is just a little bit too bright, so it doesn't feel like nighttime, and that's what it needs to look like when you see an entire Milky Way so dark you can see sky glow. So again, it's a very fine line. It's nearly there. An excellent photograph, but that's my feedback on it.
Thank you, Mike. Alrighty then. We have reached the end of the category.